Thinking ahead, world has changed so very much. What it used to be, there's so much hatred, more and poverty.
James Thomas is here to tell it like it is. Here to talk education, politics, business. James is here for real talk without the yelling, real issues and solutions. This is Tell It Like It Is with James Thomas on 1300 WTLS and 106.5 FM. Online at 1300 WTLS.
Welcome to Tell It Like It Is. A very special edition of Tell It Like It Is. Every year we do a nice special leading up to Dr. Martin Luther King's birthday. And this year I have two very special guests. One is no stranger to the show, Dr. James Mitchell and Miss Lane Holly. How you doing? Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us, man.
This year we titled Martin Luther King special, Why Today Don't Seem to, if I ask them about Dr. King's speech, a lot of them don't realize the disconnect they are from our history, as well as how that history applies to today. What's your thoughts on it? You want to lead off, Lane?
Sure, I will. Yeah, and I think you raise a good point. We've had a couple of shoulders you're standing on, and I think diversity, particularly on college campuses, and attention to equity and providing an equitable environment for learning and all of the advancement that offers is more important than ever. And I think that really echoes Dr. King's sentiments and thoughts and really the work that he dedicated his life to. So it's incredibly valuable in today's.
I've always said that the Constitution and the amendments will anybody, but even now it seems that fight for some of the wrong reasons or pick the wrong battles to fight. And maybe I'm wrong, but we're arguing so many things about today, that stuff that happened 10 years ago. Give you an example. Kevin Hart is trying to his dream was to host the Oscars. He made a comment that was derogatory, and it was a bad comedian joke. However, 2009, when that happened, he apologized for it. He moved on. And since then, you can actually see in his stand-up that it never took place again. And yet, he's no longer hosting the Oscars because people have brought that back up. But nobody's brought up the fact that he apologized, and you can see he has changed. So that's why I say we pick the wrong battles to choose. And then we have an individual, I don't want to even disrespect the office of the president, but that's the United States. And I have to, and I tell a lot of people, but immigration, taxes, always been a major issue. Tariffs, since NAFTA, having retired from the government, I know firsthand how those issues are issues that need to be addressed. How he's addressing it is a huge problem and something we've never seen before. But there was a comment that he made that people seem to have slept on. He told the Republicans, you had 8 years that you guys were fighting Obama's health care. And you mean to tell me you didn't come up with a plan? He said this to the Republicans. You don't even have a plan, but yet you want to fight this? And so he's been going at it his way because they actually hadn't had a plan for anything. And so when I see granted, having worked firsthand in immigration, I'm angry at the media because a couple of kids recently died in Border Patrol's custody, so they say. And I can tell you firsthand from the process of when immigrants or illegal aliens are captured, they go through a system that's not broken. And it's 100% videoed. the minute you set foot in the detention facility, you will get medical care. So this recent girl that died, as they say, from dehydration, there's no way you can be in immigration care and die of dehydration that quick. So it had to be before you was prior to coming in. And the same one with this little lady that just recently passed last week. So it bothers me that the media, although they're hyping up more than what it is causing a great deal of our issues. They're picking issues, and this is my opinion, and just harping it and harping it and harping it to where the big issues that are going on is not being addressed. But as far as
through all of that matters,
right,
and inhumane treatment and dignity, and I'm saying in 2019 that we're not just headed back there, we're back there.
True.
And when I say that, when you start talking about basic human and civil rights, in 2019, with the history this country has had, and here we are today talking about voter suppression. Here we are talking about the very basic right to vote, which we fought for in 1965 and before. Right. Vote, the right to vote. You have voter suppression where you are saying to people, and there's no shame in that game, right, that we're going to suppress the vote because that's the only way we can win. So we want to change the rules of the game. So, I agree with you in a sense when you talk about the media sometimes, because I listen sometimes to when I hear this person that we call the president who has no moral compass, right, and who is unethical, but we sit here and allow him to call a congresswoman who made a statement that, hey, maybe she shouldn't have made it, but guess what? He is definitely not qualified to be moral police.
Exactly.
So, he comes along and he's doing these things, and let's be real. Every other one of these things affect people of color, people who are oftentimes considered the least of these. You tell me how inhumane it is to have kids locked up like they are prisoners, and we have no concern about that. True. We are not. There is no major uprising saying this has to stop. Right. And it's like you said, because that's not important. We'd rather cover him on the way to somewhere where he's going to tell a bunch of more lies.
Exactly.
So with that, we're back there. We're way into it. And if we don't hurry up and deal with it, and as you said, stop dealing with some of this other foolishness, we're going to be in much deeper trouble.
True. That is true. How can we get, and by you guys being, how can we get energized our youth to understand what is truly going on and how they can actually make a difference today? Because a lot of them don't seem really interested, and that's just maybe my take, that they don't seem interested in what's going on. They're in a whole other world that's
I think I'll jump in and say, I think it's really, and we've known a long time about the value of an educated consumer, an educated citizen,
right,
and to make sure that they have experiences and conversations that link back. I mean, this all circles exactly back to your first question, which is, what is the value today of Dr. King's legacy? I think hearing from people like Ms. Clayton to talk about what the movement did, why it was so important, why it's important today. But on top of that too, going back to the educated citizen, and Dr. Mitchell and Auburn University of Montgomery, I mean, that's such a valuable piece of the community, which colleges, four-year universities, it's an opportunity that is provided today to students that is increasingly valuable, because you can get really our news cycle and you can start getting your information from one or two sources. And I think that's what the experience that we empathize with and understand your own place in the world as well and why you need to get it.
They have a different approach to it.
Oh, yeah.
Again, the things that rallied us during the 60s, they don't approach it the same way. Their thoughts are, they're very thoughtful about it, but they don't approach it the same way. The The other part of it is, I think we have to, in higher education, be more community oriented. We've got to stop with just come to this college or university, register for your class, and go to class and go home.
True.
We've got to get them engaged in the community and what's happening in the community. Your SGA, your other college organizations. We've got to keep them engaged and not just try to be politically correct. So, we can't talk about the issue in East Montgomery because that's not politically correct or that's touching. Mm-hmm. Well, that's life.
Right.
And they need to learn to deal with life like we have to.
True.
So I think it's how we choose to engage them and keep them engaged, and not just on the peripheral in terms of, well, hey, this is what's happening. Now, no, get involved, do something about it. Something needs to be changed.
You're absolutely right, because I've noticed a lot of fraternities, sororities, when I came through, or when we all came through in those organizations, community involvement was huge. We did a great deal of community involvement. I was really proud to be a part, and it actually educated me a lot more on our communities that we were in. And I don't see that now. I really don't. And it bothers me a great deal because I don't see, aside from your main events that these organizations, I'm mostly focusing on sororities and fraternities, especially here in this community or in this area. You see them doing the same events over and over, and it's the same ones. And granted, they make a difference, but they're not what we need as far as, granted, I love Toys for Tots. I love participating in it. That's a gimmick. Mother's Day breakfast, that's a gimmick. We're going to always be there to cook, serve breakfast to our mothers. But really getting into the dirt, and I got to say, I paid attention one time I was on your campus. We talked about voter suppression, and the AKAs were going to voter strike. I was very impressed with that. And I seen several students literally said, I've already registered. And they were outside of you guys' student center. They walked in, and one of the ladies said, I ain't gonna have no reason to vote. I didn't register. And the other guys, there was a guy and two other girls with them. They all didn't register, but they told the lady that they did. So while we're in line ordering food, I made a comment to them. I said, do you know that there's a bill right now that's going to affect your student aid? No, we didn't know it. You better get out and pay attention. You might want to go back and register to vote because that bill is going to affect you. And one did. Matter of fact, it was the lady that initially started that, but the other three, I don't know if they did or not. But I know she went back out there and actually registered. But that told me right there, like, wow, how can they not know that there's something going on within the education community that's going to affect them as far as financial aid is concerned? And they have no clue. So I posed that same scenario. I literally told Alabama State, AUM, and was really baffled at how many people they were going to voter drive, but a lot of people didn't really register as they should have. The numbers that could have actually been there, they weren't there. And because people just didn't feel that their vote would matter. So how can we get them to understand? And don't get me wrong, you made a valid point when you said the old ways is not the way that they're doing things. And you're absolutely right, because I see it every time I'm in Selma. Just recently, we had a lot of Selma city employees laid off. And I attended a meeting that these employees held at a church. And the first thing came out of their mouth was, let's picket. I said, they don't do that these days. You got to find another very effective way to do it. But picketing is not the answer. We can't go back to those ways because they don't work now. And sure enough, they pick it, and it wasn't about 5 or 6 people. And that's the main point I was trying to tell them. You're not organized. You can't just say, let's do it, and just jump out there and do it. You got to be very strategic and organized to do that, to make it effective. So it really wasn't an effective movement that they tried to make. And then the character that they were listening to wasn't, he was very, very old school from that era. And so his information wasn't accurate, but with social media being as prevalent as it is, I mean, I can tell you just how much I walk on campuses working with. I'll never forget this one situation. We were at Tuskegee doing a back to school drive. So I'm doing a live remote, right in the center and the heart of everything. 3-hour remote. The first 2 hours were very like, wow, do these guys know what we're doing? We're collecting supplies to donate to high school. Nobody's there. So there's one student, I'll never forget this. And it was because of him, made me wake up and say, I better get with the times. I better get with the program. He walked up and said, hey, I want to be on the radio. I said, if you want to be on the radio, I'll tell you what I'll do. If you can get somebody out here, I'll help you learn the business. He tweeted. And in 1 hour, we filled 4 boxes supplied by Abram Movers. 4 boxes. These were some big boxes. And we filled them up in an hour. I've been there 3 hours. The first 2 was just, we about to cry. That 1 hour, he had everybody in the school out there. It was like, wow, you need to educate me on this Twitter business. And if you look at the date that I signed up for Twitter, it was literally, it was just, wow. So we need to pay hours on it. And there's so much fake news on us, on those sites. It's hard to really just get a handle. So how do we get these kids to understand? Because that same method of doing things was the same method that hurt us in this election. So how do we make a comeback from that? How do we get them to understand that sometimes what's good for the goose ain't good for the gander, and that's where we're at.
I think you raise a good point, which is I think we need to increase the ratio of truthful conversation and insightful conversation to counteract what's out there. And you know, you got to think about it. There's a lot of stuff that's just, you know, being told to people, and then it becomes sort of like road signs, right? And people get immune to it. And what really spurs everything is a real conversation. How do you feel about something? And what we find is that we have a lot more experiences and issues that we share in common than we may have thought. And that conversation can really drown out a lot of the stuff that doesn't matter or maybe isn't true. The truth is in what's really happening between us. And that's why I think what we see a lot is on social media, it's very authentic, right? We see, but you know, it's not just blazing out there. It's not the news. Now I'm a belt and suspenders girl. I'm pick it and get on social media, right? Be by the roadside when the news truck comes. But you know, those conversations aren't always as visible, but that doesn't mean they're not happening. But you know, leadership needs to find ways to use those platforms to draw those conversations out into the public.
Well, and I think, and your point's well taken. I think there again, as you said, we've got to engage. And when I say we, the leaders of our campuses. But I think also I've seen, for example, at Wallace, our SGA. Now, you know, you always have an SGA president and officers and all of that. But this one this year, for example, there's some students who, every time I read the paper or I hear something about it, they are out there in the community doing something. It wasn't some guys are sitting there saying, hey, this is something we ought to consider, or maybe we ought to do this just to get our picture in the paper. These were things that they saw a need or felt they needed an experience. For example, with the Bosco Center going down, helping to feed people, or helping to gather food and clothes for people. this is something they did on their own. This wasn't the college saying, well, hey, as a part of your community service project, you need to do that. They chose to do that because then, as they often said in reading some of their comments, we learned something. Right. There again, you have that moment of saying, hey, this is how I can make a difference, or this is what's happening in my community.
Right. On that note, we're going to take a quick break.